Greetings, viewers of Apple Stump Bushcraft Stuff and Things. We're back for another episode today, one which I like to call Cooking with White Lightning. Conveniently enough, our local electric utility decided to create a power outage lasting about 4 hours so that they could repair some underground transmission lines. That gives us a perfect opportunity to cook lunch here on the stovetop without electricity, just like you might have to do if there were a power outage in your area due to a tornado, hurricane, or just because the power company is doing maintenance. So today we're going to use our stove, and if you watched our last episode you'll know that this same kind of stove is a giveaway item which we will be drawing a winner for later today. So let's get it set up. We'll take off the simmer ring, and we'll take off the cap, put the stove in there, and I think we're going to put in 2 ounces of fuel today because we have to cook almost 2 cups of water for the entree that we're going to prepare. So 2 tablespoons to the ounce, so that'll be 4 tablespoons. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Once again, we're using Everclear 151, which is grain alcohol and water essentially, or as it might be known in some quarters, White Lightning. Now stand by. Alright, so we're in a power outage situation here. We're not camping, we're not outdoors or hiking. But today our entree, because we can't use our electric range or open up the refrigerator to get ingredients out, we're going to use one of my favorites, and that is Mountain House Adventure Meals Classic Spaghetti with Meat Sauce. There's supposed to be 2 servings in here. The directions call for 1 3/4 cups of water boiling, and then you tear open the packet and add the water and let it sit for a while. Stir it up, and it's supposed to be ready in about 4 minutes. Let's get on with that process. Last time we saw that this base for the stove, the alcohol stove, is a little bit too wide to safely balance the GSI cup on, so we're going to flip it over. We'll put the stove there, flip that over, it becomes a pot stand that's plenty adequate for that cup. Let's fire it up. And it is burning. You may be able to see the blue flame erupting from the center of that cooking base. Let's put the GSI cup on top. It's very nicely balanced. And pour in 1 3/4 cups of water. And just for fun, we're going to start the timer on this and see how long it takes to boil that water. So we've started the timer, and let's make sure one time that the stove is still burning. Not burning. Alright, we're going to let that stove heat up a little while before we put the pot back over it. The jets are starting to erupt along the perimeter of the ring. And we also have a fairly vigorous flame in the middle, but apparently I didn't let it get hot enough the first time. So we're going to let that heat up for just a minute, then we'll put the water back on. Alright, I checked under there and it looked like the flame was going. So I put the cup back on, restarted the timer, and the flame is actually going, so that'll work. Alright, we'll check back when the water's boiling. We're sitting at 5 minutes and 20 seconds right now. I'm going to put a makeshift cover on that, because things boil faster when they're covered. And we'll come back when it's boiling. We're sitting at 20, coming up on 45, and the pot is making boiling noises. So let's take a look. Yep, we got a boil going on there. It's not as vigorous as I would like to see, but I think a boil is a boil. Let's remove that from the heat. We'll scoot the stove off to the side. Still got a lot of fuel in it. Put this back on there for now while we prepare the packet of spaghetti. So it has a tear notch in it. Is it tear notch? Yes. Okay. Here we go. And there's what it looks like inside. Looks like it's got a ton of meat in there. It also has a Ziploc closure, so when we pour the water in there, it'll close up really nicely. So let's add the boiling water. I always take that out of there, so I don't want to eat that thing, right? Do not eat that, it says. And we're supposed to stir this up. What I like about this pouch is it's gusseted at the bottom so you can stand it up straight. And ziplock the lock if we can do that. It used to be on these in the old days, you just fold them over. But this one has a ziplock. I'm going to fold it over anyway. And we'll let it sit there. Now, as far as the stove goes, it's still burning. Got plenty of fuel left. I can see it in the bottom. I'm going to remove the stand. And we're going to use the snuffer to put it out with. I suspect that that wouldn't have taken that long to boil had we used the pot stand in the normal manner. But as it is, the flames were not only heating the pot, but they were also heating the stand. So a lot of the heat went to waste heating this up. If we had put it this way, I'm sure it would have boiled much sooner. But there was a balance issue with this pot. I just don't think it's really safe to put it on there. It's tippy. So that's why we didn't. So this is snuffed now, and I don't know if you can see it down in there. I really don't want to pick it up. Well, let's give it a shot. Turn the light on here. You see all the fuel sloshing around in there. I bet it didn't use a half of that 2 ounces. Pretty economical. Wanted to talk for just a second about leaving any kind of alcohol in these stoves. They have a rubber gasket in the lid. You can see that black gasket in there. And alcohol tends to attack those gaskets over time. I recommend not leaving fuel in the stove while you're hiking around, at least not for any length of time, and certainly not for long-term storage. I suppose that you could leave the fuel in it when you're going from breakfast to lunch or lunch to dinner, but I wouldn't recommend leaving it in there for days at a time. We'll check back here in a minute when the spaghetti is ready to eat. It is time to stir up the spaghetti. If you ask me, it's kind of watery. I don't think I would recommend adding the full amount of water that they say to add on the package. 1 3/4 cups of water. We'll let it sit a bit more. Let's check it again and see. Sounds like our power just kicked back on. Yeah, that's a little thicker. I'll go ahead and serve it up. I would have put it on a plate, but it's a little too soupy for that, I think. Okay. So my wife and I are going to enjoy this for lunch. And that's what we do when the power's out around here. To review, we use this alcohol stove here. We used White Lightning, or actually 75% grain alcohol in it. And because of the size of the pan or pot I was using, we turned this way. I think that was detrimental. I think the water would have boiled much faster had we set the pot on top of there. However, once again, the GSI cup or pot is unbalanced on that, so it wouldn't have been safe. Alright, we're going to dig in, and we'll check back with you in a little bit about the contest. This was not a review of the Mountain House spaghetti with meat sauce. However, I will say it was very good. About as close to homemade as you can get out of a freeze-dried pouch. My wife enjoyed it. I enjoyed mine. And we have a few thoughts about how fast the water could have boiled had we done something else. So it's a shoulda, woulda, coulda moment, and we'll get right back to you with that. We're going to try this again, just to boil the water a different way. So there's the stove, it's got some fuel in it. And here we have a pot stand made out of, looks like 1/4-inch hardware cloth. I'll put that there. And I believe this will hold the pot reasonably steady. Yep, okay. I'm going to add the same amount of water to it. And I will start the stove and get it preheated. I'm going to give that a minute or two to heat up and get the jets going, and we'll put the water on there and see what happens. Most of the jets are running now at some rate or another, so I'll put that on there. I think that's about as steady as it's going to get. And that's not real steady, but it's more so than it was with the pot stand that the stove came with. And we'll check back. I'm going to start the timer, and we'll see how long it takes to boil. I've been fooling around with this pot stand for a while now, and it's not working all that well. I think it holds the pot too close to the stove, and the jets don't mature well enough. So I'm going to take it off of there, and I'll turn off the light. And you can see them redevelop around the rim where the little holes are. They're building up again, maturing again. But I would recommend, and I may just do it, if you're going to make a pot stand out of hardware cloth, and this looks like 1/4-inch, I would use 2 more squares. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Being about 1.5 inches or so. I'd use 2 more of those squares up and let the flame mature better. That way you can see if it were about that high it'd be just fine. But being as close as it was to the jets, they were just almost snuffing themselves out. So another lesson learned. Alright. So here we are, a random comment picker. We're going to insert our URL for the video and go for it. Here we go. So, Seaman of the Woods, Central U.S., you are the winner of the alcohol stove featured in our previous video. I will post a comment with this video notifying you of your win, and I'll attempt to contact you on your own YouTube page if that's possible. So, once again, Seaman of the Woods, Central U.S., you are the winner, and we'll get the prize off to you as quick as I can make contact with you and get an address. Thanks again for watching Apple Stump Bushcraft Stuff and Things, and we'll see you next time. Adios, folks.